In the heirs to the Omen meta, I think a lot of people defaulted to playing the new Sincero Swordcraft, but mid-range sword, as you can see on the screen here, is actually putting up some decent results for me in Sapphire. We went on a 7-win streak, and the deck is pretty much the same as last format. We've just made a couple of small changes, mainly adding in the Devotee on 2 in place of Syria. Let's go ahead and take a look at 4 unique matches to see how the deck performed. Alright, so I'm probably going to start with this clip, even though I think it was one of the last ones in the run. Or the current run is still going, but I just want to show you this to show you the explosive power of mid-range sword, or the explosive power that this deck still has. So when you get an insane curve, which, you know, the Prim plus the Zirconia, right, and then just happen to have a 3-drop as well, and you put Gilneas in there, you know, as an alternative 3-drop, because she can get boosted by Zirconia by 1. But this kind of curve can be like unstoppable. Like most decks cannot deal with this. Here the opponent goes for Rage of Surface to deal with the Nandra. That's actually a decent answer, but they do take 2 damage in response. We draw a Lance Trooper, and that's good because we don't want to deploy our Vaults here for no value, just as a 2-1. Of course, we are threatened by the 3-drop and deal 1 to all characters that Abysscraft got in Heirs to the Omen. But if we get hit by that, it's not the end of the world. We end up living with 2 units on board, and then we drop Zirconia. Zirconia takes out the Vuela, and then we hit face for 4, bringing the opponent down to 12. They need a very strong answer right now. They go for Gilneas, so clearly they don't have the 3-drop deal 1 damage, where they would obviously evo it to deal another 1 damage across the board. But the Gilneas leaves up 3 units, and then they go for the Skeleton, and this isn't great for them. So we're going to drop the top deck Lance Trooper, use the Rush Knight that it generates to clear out the Skeleton, and then drop Vaults to take out the Gilneas, push damage by evoing a Knight, and hit for 8, bringing the opponent down to 6. This is important because the Albert on 5, or in this case on 6, with the Storm on Super Evo next turn will deal 6 damage directly to face. So the game is over by like turn 6. They do eventually see the Entwining Devotee, which clears my board with the, you know, basically the Apollo ability, but it's too little too late. No wards, no healing. The Albert's gonna come in and Super Evo and hit directly for game. So yeah, pretty aggressive, pretty explosive still. Mid-range sword, still a threat in the metagame. We'll have a pretty diverse match set to show you. It'll be 4 matches, each going up against something different. This one is going to be the Sword Mirror. In the opening hand here, we're pretty much going to put back everything except for the Devotee, because it's all too high cost, and we want to use Goldaria when we can Super Evo for free if we can. There is a case to be made, maybe when you go second you keep Goldaria because you can coin her out on 5 and usually clear a board. You end up drawing into 1 anyways, but with 3 in the deck, you know, it's fine to put it back, because if you're starving for 2 drops. If you have like a couple of low cost cards, maybe it's worth keeping her. She's a very powerful card, and she's one of the reasons why you play mid-range sword. Anyways, clearly we're up against the Sincero build of sword in the mirror match here, and thankfully we have a lot of pressure. We actually draw all 3 Devotees here, so we're going to have a lot of the loot cards in hand, at least for the boots and for the goblets. This is the first time I was playing this iteration with the Devotee in it, so I wasn't really the best, obviously, at, you know, card management. So obviously I bricked a Prim Princess there, sadly, but yeah, it's a nice variation of the deck, simply because it gives you a little bit extra utility. You'll actually see, well, actually it wasn't on this, in this matchup set where I used the Gilded Boots to have Albert OTK for 14 damage when the opponent was on 14 life. But regardless, the goblets being able to heal you up is something that Sword obviously really could have used, and so adapting that into mid-range list is very good. The opponent clears my board with the Congregant, so very, very strong place here. We're forced to evo back with the Lance Trooper, which isn't great, but we have to clear the opponent's board. They follow up with their own Vaults to clear my Lance Trooper and then blade away my other Vaults. This one, you know, on the Gilded Boots on their Vaults to clear my Knight, I think was not really the best. But it ended up working out for them because I ended up drawing a Goldaria, so, you know, them clearing my board actually paid off there. They've got 6 cards in hand. I think I was keeping track of their loot cards during the game, but I haven't for this commentary. They have another Congregant. I don't know if this is their 3rd one, right? At least 2, obviously, but like, This card is so good, man. Like, even if you don't see Sincero, there's a case to be made that you even fit this card into mid-range sword because it's just that good, and another 4-drop. Because the only 4-drop you play is Gildaria. The opponent gets super lucky there. I just assume I have the worst luck, right? And they end up hitting my Gildaria, not Gildaria, sorry, the Zirconia, I mean. But they end up hitting my Zirconia there, and yeah, they're able to have their Congregant live. So now I have to kind of waste the boots with this Knight in order to take it out. And I'm just living off of these two Gildarias in my hand, basically, right? Not too much to do here. Down comes an early Albert, which this signals to me that they have more Alberts in hand or more like direct storm damage. Either the big beast card that comes down on 8 or Odin's, right? Off my Amelia drop, I get 2 Alberts to hand, but we're able to finish off the Albert and end with a 5-1 on the board. And our Gildaria rally counts here. I don't think I'm going to hit them if I can get to, yeah, 14. I need to see like, I needed to see a Luminous Mages or an Amalia earlier on, and I just haven't. On 9, we are going to drop our Albert, and I'm going to opt to Super Evo, knowing that the Sincero version doesn't put up any ward characters, really. Like, it's really unorthodox for them to play that. I end up letting the Amelia live because I'm not fearful of, like, barrier going on down on a Luminous Mages or even an Amalia at this point. And the Super Evo here, the opponent clearly messes up because it only gives the barrier to the to the Swordcraft unit, sorry. So they are, well, I mean, it's not a mess up, but like they do hit me for extra damage. But because they have no protection, no healing, we're going to be able to drop the second Albert, and we end up taking that one off Sincero's sword. They didn't even need to see Sincero because the amount of pressure they were putting on, especially with the Congregant, allowed them to actually combat this matchup a little bit better. Yes, the Sincero is a board wipe, but the Congregant being able to also wipe the board more efficiently without using a Super Evo is also very good. Alright, next up I've got the Dragoncraft matchup, and you usually feel pretty comfortable as a Swordcraft player in this match. It really depends on, honestly, in my opinion, like the Dragoncraft player's card advantage, because they're going to be aiming to set up the Neptune in this matchup, and if they have a lot of cards in their hand and they're constantly dropping the Marine followers to constantly heal, it's a really uphill battle for you at that point. But if you can get them low enough where, you know, the healing doesn't end up making a difference, or they can't heal fast enough, and you can just push through the extra damage for game, that's also very, very useful. Also, it helps that Dragon, for the most part, seems to be cutting Twilight Dragon. I mean, I guess it's fine because the new Azurafreed is kind of like a board wipe, but it's not nearly as like strong as Twilight Dragon in terms of wiping the board without using your Super Evo. So you'll often see Dragon players not burn their Super Evo if they're on their last one, especially because they know they need to save for Azura for it. Whereas if you're on Twilight Dragon, you could just burn your Super Evo if you need to, right? So here, you know, we play the early game. I develop some early aggression. The opponent easily takes care of it with double Ferocious Flame on the Grimnir, so that's not great. We're going to respond by dropping the Vulse here to take out the Grimnir. Would have loved to obviously keep my 2 units on board and having the opponent think that the Grimnir would have protected them. But the opponent reveals that they are on Majerabane, aka Jerry. And yeah, this is a deck, I guess. I haven't lost to this deck yet. I faced it about 4 or 5 times now. Never lost to it. So I'm like, okay, like I have a good track record against this stuff. Let's see if we can kind of keep it going. We're gonna go ahead and drop Devotee, and I think I drew all 3 Devotees in this game as well, funnily enough. But we're gonna use the boots that we get off of it to trade out with the Jerry and then develop the Prim, leaving her in ambush mode, obviously. The opponent here is setting up some Crest and Sword cards, interestingly enough, with the Jerry cards that they've received, and we just have to push through a 4 ward character. We burn a Zirconia, which doesn't feel great, but it's gonna be okay, I guess. We're gonna end up using the play point to drop Amelia because I think I really had no other play. I got triple Goblets in hand because of how many Devotees I drew early on. So like, obviously these cards are completely dead, so not a great showcase here. I'm just gonna burn one just to get cards out of my hand. And that's kind of why I burned the boots too, I believe, is so I could draw 2 off Amalia, because while the loot cards are nice to have, I don't need like 3 copies of each one right now, right? I need to see them at different times in order to better utilize them. So down comes this new Abysscraft card that clears out 2 characters, and they get lucky in clearing off the Nanja and the Prim, because then they can Super Evo clear the Amelia. But that's totally fine. We're gonna go ahead and drop the Gildaria, and use a regular Evo because we don't want to burn our last super Evo here, and unfortunately have to trade out our Gildaria with the boots in order to take out that super Evo Abysscraft card on the other end. The opponent gets a Marwyn, and they're going to burn one of their Evos on it to get the crest, so they're up to 4 crests in this Majerabane deck, which is crazy, and they're going to be able to burn me because they didn't attack. Now they have a 4/6 ward that I have to worry about, and their deck size is 46, so again, ever so close to that victory card. But we're going to go ahead and drop the Amalia here. This, in my opinion, it can be very, very difficult for the Jerry deck to deal with, because if you're up against a regular deck, like, they're going to know I need board wipes later on, and with the Jerry deck, you're kind of just at the mercy of whatever it gives you, right? And some of the a lot of the cards that it's giving you are not high value cards, right? Because they're like the bronze cards from Forest and all the other cards that aren't being used really. But to be fair, I guess I guess there is a chance you draw into a lot of high value cards as well. Anyways, they develop the Linshana and burn their final Super Evo on it. I'm going to go ahead and make a huge misplay here, forgetting that Linshana can't be destroyed. I should have realized. For some reason, I thought the Samurai broke the barrier because it has a circle around it, but it's orange. And then the Princess doesn't take it out because its effect is also to destroy. So, yeah. And then the Azura Freak comes in. They have no more Super Evos, but the Super Evo Linshana doesn't take any damage. Thankfully, the Albert will clear both. And I think I opt to... Okay, no, I do Super Evo. I do have the second Albert and an Amalia in hand ready to go. So we're going to heal back up a little bit. And at this stage, in this scenario, the opponent needs to clear the Albert, they need to heal, and they need to put up a ward. They have to do all 3 of those things in order to play around my hand. Because I've got Tentacle for game when the opponent didn't heal when they were at 5. I have a second Albert if they don't put up a ward, and the current Albert will just finish the game if they don't deal with it. So I put the opponent in an impossible situation there, which is why I dropped Albert on the previous turn, given the board state, my hand, and just the general game state. And at that point, it was pretty much a guaranteed win if the opponent couldn't OTK me on the pass back. So I would say we comfortably take that one, even though it looked a little close. But yeah, we kind of had the setup to really close it out. Alright, in this next one here, we're up against RuneCraft, and this is, the classic, I guess you could say. Probably the 2 most popular decks. I think Sword is still considered top tier, maybe not this variation in mid-range, maybe the Sincero build just because it's more explosive. But like you've seen, this mid-range deck can still do really good work as you're grinding up to master rank and stuff like that. This opponent is on the Astrologer, which is very interesting. You don't really see that in like spell boost rune decks all too often, more in obviously Earthright focus. So part of me thinks that already, like, oh, I'm against an Earthright RuneCraft build, right? Not a spell boost build. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the Vols instead of the Nanja and pass turn. Let's see if the opponent wants to trade the Astrologer or if they have an answer. I see the homework time come in, and then I'm like, well, it probably is spell boost actually, which is again a little weird to see the Astrologer. But we're going to be able to drop 2 2-drops on turn 4, push 1 damage with the Prim, and pass back over to the opponent. They're going to drop Melvi, and I'm happy to see that. They burn their play point early, right? They burn their play point to drop Astrologer turn 1. They mulligan, I think, 3 cards, so their hand must have been like really bad in order to burn play point for Astrologer. So I knew no Anangrea or Onion was coming in on turn 4 with the play point. And as a result, my board lives. I didn't draw the Zirconia for the big blow-up play, unfortunately, but we are still able to push some decent damage, putting the opponent down to 15, clearing out the Melvi and putting up double Lance Trooper. Instant answer in the Sagelight board clear. And that's okay. Sagelight board clearing, the extra unit Sword puts in, you just put up more units, right? Like Luminous Mages here is a great response. The opponent is not able to use the Sagelight for healing instead, right? Because they're using it for the board wipe, so it's a trade-off. They go for the Onion, and this, is always a problem. I think, honestly, whenever I play Rune, I think the games where I see the Onion, I win like 90% of them. When I see the Virgin and get it online, like it's within a relative time frame, I should say. Like I don't get it, I see it on turn 4, 5, 6 or whatever. I don't see it like turn 15 because I'm probably gonna lose if I don't get it online earlier than that. But the Onion engine is just so strong, and it's such a problem for every deck really. But Sword in particular, the Onion is very nice because it helps you hit certain breakpoints to push over characters, which is kind of annoying. Anyways, the opponent goes for Kuon here, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to Odin away the barrier, or the ward unit, so they do not get the spell boost 3 on it. And then I'm just gonna push damage. This is kind of telegraphing Albert for game. So they end up clearing their board and dropping a second Kuon, and I'm like, okay, that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We draw Gildaria, and at this point, I think my rally count was at 15 or something. So I was like, do I go for Gildaria clear, or do I go for Amalia? Yeah, so after I play the Amalia, my rally count goes to 20, so now I have the free Super Evo. And I opt to clear this way using my Evo point on Amalia to demand an answer to it, basically. The opponent has the third Kuon, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know, the silver lining here is they only got 5 cards in hand. Hopefully they don't have Cositis. They probably have 4 cards in hand now, using that Demonic Call. They probably have a Dimension Climb because they've been burning through these Kuon spell boosting. They wouldn't do that, wasting the spell boost if they didn't have a decline. But the good news is they don't have any Kuons left, so they can't Kuon OTK me, Demonic Call, get up to 13, 16, etc., and OTK me. So here I put up a very powerful setup. I finally draw into an Albert off of the Amelia, but the issue is if the opponent does have Cositis and decline, I could just instantly lose the game. But this double Super Evo, right, one off the free Gildaria Super Evo, and then the Amelia Super Evo to give the Gildaria and everything else a barrier, is like really, really strong. The opponent does indeed have Cositis, decline, but they did not find 10 cost spell. They play,
I'm impressed.
I don't know, Witch's New Brew to try to dig for something. I don't really know what they could dig for here, because they would essentially need now Silent Rider into a second decline in order to OTK. So after I saw that Witch's New Brew, I was very happy to see that they did not cheese me out with the 10 cost play spell, and we end up taking that one. Again, looked comfortable until obviously the turn 10, where we could have just instantly lost, but that's typically how that matchup goes.